Cool, guys. Well, thank you for doing this. Our podcast is about your guys' journey in music and how you got to where you are now and starting Guardrail.
Sick.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So are you both from Chicago originally?
Yeah, we grew up in the suburbs of Chicago. Yeah.
Okay. Tell me about that a little bit. You guys knew each other growing up or grew up in the same area?
Yeah. So Ken and I both went to Catholic school growing up, and we met in 5th grade.
Okay.
So we go way back. So what, 21 years now?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's weird to
We're
think
old.
about.
Well, how did you get into music, Kevin?
Man, I just always just been drawn to music. You're just like watching Disney movies and stuff. I was always running around singing all the Lion King songs in my house and everything. But like, I started getting into music on my own. Like when I was a kid, you'd ask me, what's your favorite kind of music? And I would just say like rock and roll, because that's what my dad listened to, But
Sure.
but then, I started getting into like pop music and stuff. Like my first concert ever was when I was 10, just before I met Ken. I went and saw the Backstreet Boys.
Really?
Yeah. And,
you're not the first person that's told me that. That's
nice.
in like the pop rock, pop punk scene, like this. We're like, oh yeah, the Backstreet Boys are the first concert I ever went to.
Yeah. And Mandy Moore opened up for him, and that was
That's pretty cool.
She just had that like one single that was like big on the radio at the time.
Oh, Candy.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. It was on the tip of my tongue. But yeah, and then I don't know. I was just like into that, and then I started watching a lot more MTV and getting into things that way, and then I saw Blink-182 on TRL, and I was like, I like these guys. They're like normal people, but they're not like these larger than life, like like Steven Tyler or
right,
something like that. So I was like, cool, okay. So that kind of drew me to punk rock, and then I got a guitar when I was 13 for my 8th grade graduation, and Ken got one right around the same time, and then we started working on music together.
Right on. What about you, Ken? How'd you get into music?
Speaking of Steven Tyler.
Steven Tyler got you into music.
Yeah. Hanging out with Steve.
Hanging out with Steve. He showed me his stuff. Yeah.
I call him Steve-O. We go way back. It's fun.
I think Aerosmith was, I think, the first rock band that, because of my dad's musical tastes, it was all classic rock, like, Led Zeppelin, Aerosmith, Beatles, like Talking Heads, even like 80s.
Oh, wow. Cool.
So I was exposed to that when I was younger, and probably didn't realize at the time how it was being infused into my brain without realizing it. But I think the first like music movement that I remember like consciously, like, oh, this is music, was like the boy band stuff in the late 90s.
Yeah.
Like it was the debate at school, like, do you like Backstreet Boys or NSYNC?
Sure.
that whole thing. But
then you throw in the curveball, I like 98 Degrees, bro.
Right.
Yeah.
Or one of the other ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
What about Bewitched? Well, they're not a boy band, but yeah, like, so I guess that was the first type of music we all started listening to, like, for our age.
Sure.
And then maybe a few years later, I just wanted to pick up a guitar, and it was because of all the music that my family listened to leading up to that. And then I'm not sure why it was Aerosmith that I got drawn into, because I don't really listen to them that much anymore, but they were definitely the stepping stone of like, oh, they put on great live shows. Like they're like sometimes over the top, but it's a fun experience to go see them live. So I was like, oh, I would love to do that, to be on stage and put on an awesome show. And that's what drew me into,
music,
playing guitar. Yeah.
Nice.
And then over the years, it's subdued. Like, I don't want to be like super flashy and like all,
you don't want to wear feather boas and shit on stage.
No, but I do want people coming to show. Like, I want to go to the show and have an experience, not just see people play music, if that makes sense.
No, totally.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
have it more
So
of like
that's-
yeah.
That's what we like to do. We like to make our shows a lot of fun and interactive, and
Instead of going to a show and just hearing the band play the record, and you're like,
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
well, I could have done this in my car.
Yeah. There's so many times I'd go to a show and I'm just like, okay, they sound fine, but like I'm so bored. I could have
Right.
just listened to my iPod, but
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
So did
yeah.
you get a guitar, Ken, around the same time Kevin did?
Yeah, I think it was maybe my sophomore year of high school or something. I remember getting, probably like a 50 or like a $50 acoustic guitar or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I had it sitting on a chair or something, and my dog walked by and like bumped it, and it fell onto the ground, and just the neck just like snapped right off. I was like, oh, I guess I need a new guitar. And then I moved into like a Squire Strat or something
Sure.
back in the day.
I think that's a lot of kids' first guitars. You got like the bundle at Guitar Center with like
oh yeah,
Yep, that's
a
what
bag and an
I still
amp.
have it. It's sitting right over here, actually.
I actually have mine downstairs in the garage too. My first Fender Squire.
yeah. I think
exactly.
it was 8th grade, early high school. I can't remember exactly when, but
And you guys were pretty good friends growing up. You said you met in 5th grade, but were you
Yeah.
hanging out?
We
Okay.
actually met. So we went to this Catholic school, and every grade had like kind of 3 homerooms for each grade. And he was in a different homeroom, but it was my first year going to that school because I changed schools.
Mm-hmm.
And you happen to be friends with that kid Billy, that was like my only friend that I made there because I was very quiet, and he just happened to sit behind me because of the alphabet.
Sure.
And then we went on this little like Jesus retreat. And we happened to be like bunking in the same room together, and you knew this Billy kid, and we were planning on attacks for like pillow fights and shit. I'm very like that's all I remember. I don't remember any other details besides that, but I just remember like, oh, this Ken kid's cool. And then the next year in 6th grade, we were in the same homeroom, and then we became actual homies.
Friends. Wow. Okay. And then so when you guys both get guitars at some point, and then when do you start playing music together?
I got a guitar and didn't know how to play, and we immediately wrote a song about squirrels. But all I was doing was strumming it like in a rhythm. I wasn't even playing a chord. Yeah, I was just going like like just, I don't know. And it was just dumb 13-year-old shit.
Right.
And then I think Ken had started a band, and I think you guys did one show, and then I joined.
Yeah.
The band was called Mandatory Option.
Mandatory Option?
Yeah. And that was in our, I want to say our early junior year of high school.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that actually made me play bass, because we were like, all right, we have several of us in our friends group that can play guitar, but none of us really want to play bass.
Right.
And I was like, well, I love Mark Hoppus. I would love to play bass, but I don't have one. And the kid that was singing in that band had a bass that just like had a big Avenged Sevenfold sticker splatted on it. And he was like, you can use this. I was like, cool. So that was what started me on bass. And now bass is like my main instrument just because of that, out of necessity.
Do you play? You don't play bass in the band though, do you?
No.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say.
I've played bass in every band I've ever been in except for this one.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. I just kind of wanted to try something different with this one. I was like, I've always had a guitar on. Like, I want to try something different and kind of get myself out of my comfort zone. And there's some videos from our first show with Guardrail back in 2014, and I was just like, okay, I'm not sure what I'm doing. I'm like banging my head. I look like I'm trying to be Fred Durst or something like that. I'm like, what are you doing? But yeah, so that Mandatory Option band started,
and you guys were both in Mandatory Option.
Yeah. Ken was playing guitar.
You're playing bass.
Yep, and then we had a kid playing guitar and singing, and then a really old friend of mine, even older friend of mine than Ken, was playing drums for us for a bit.
Okay.
And then that band lasted like to just after high school or something like that, right?
Yeah, I think it was a year a year after graduating high school that it kind of fizzled out, and then
Did you guys
kept,
like just play
and-
locally, or were you like taking it pretty
Yeah.
seriously? Like,
I mean, we thought we were taking it seriously, but
but you really weren't.
yeah, no. I mean, we're there to have a good
yeah,
time.
we
But
thought we were much better than we were.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the first band you're in.
we
You
didn't
probably
really
always-
have like a sound either. We just had like our songs were all over the place, like genre wise. Like
Okay.
there'd be one song it's almost sounds like a funk song, and then the next song is like a metal song, and then we had a song about like ordering a hot hamburger at a restaurant and ordering ketchup only, and then you get it and all the fixings are on it and you're pissed. And like it's just a lot of really dumb shit like
Classic.
that we thought was like fucking like innovative or something. I don't know what the hell we were thinking. It was, like, but yeah, so and I think just we were all just sort of doing different things, or we're becoming adults, I guess, if you want to say that. But we're kind of at that age where we're just like, well, I don't know if I want to do this, I don't know if I want to do that. But yeah, once that band kind of fizzled out, Ken and I just kind of kept starting bands together.
And when did Guardrail officially start?
That didn't start until 2014.
Okay.
So we had, what did we have, like 2 bands in between that? Between Mandatory Option and, because we had this band, Tremor Tone, that lasted for like, what, a year? And then we had a band called Save Yourself, but it's spelled like Save Yourself.
Oh, okay.
Super clever.
That's a pretty cool name. Not gonna lie.
At first we're like, this is a cool name. This sounds cool. And then immediately people are like, oh, you're a Christian rock band. We're just like,
oh yeah.
Getting labeled immediately.
Yeah. It was
It's like, no, it's the opposite. You have to you have to save yourself.
They're like, oh, because Jesus is in me. I'm like, no, that's not. But yeah, so that band lasted a couple years, and then that band was starting to fall apart because it was just like everyone in the band kind of wanted it to sound different. We were just, getting pulled in all kinds of directions.
Mm-hmm.
And then in late 2013, I went and saw the band The Swellers play.
Okay.
And they were a band that I just had been trying to catch for so long. But like every time they came in town, I was busy or I had work. There was one time I was stuck in traffic and missed their set. By the time we got to the venue, the next band was setting up. I was like, damn it. So I finally got to see them. And I don't know, it just kind of, the energy in the room was just awesome. And I was just like, you know what? I want to play shows like this. Because I was kind of in this state of like, it seems like this band's not going to go much further. I got to kind of start thinking about my next step here. And so I wrote a punk song, or like a fast double time punk song. I brought it to that band. It was like, what do you guys think? And they're like, I don't know. I was like, okay, that's a sign. So,
and you were in that band too, Ken?
mhm.
That he's talking
Yeah.
about? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, and like the idea was from Kevin. The idea was good, and it's like, all right, punk music, but I guess my mindset was for the singer we had at the time. I was like, we need to take this more of just like a rock, almost rock alternative kind of style. And I don't think anyone else wanted that. Because then Kevin wanted to start a punk band, which I also wanted to do, but not with that singer. So it was a weird situation. And eventually it was just like, all right, we should probably just stop doing this. Because we were trying to force it to work.
So you brought that double time punk rock song, and that kind of turned everybody else off on the thing?
Yeah, exactly. And then, so then I maybe like a month or two after that, I was like, all right, fuck it, let's do it. So I just wrote on Facebook, who wants to start a punk band? And a few of my friends bid. Ken was like, yo, me, let's do this. So yeah, I mean, Ken and I have been the only constant members of the band since it started.
Mm-hmm.
we've kind of gone through a revolving door of a rhythm section at least. We had our guitarist Mike up until a couple of years ago, but yeah, I wrote on Facebook who wants to start a punk band, and some people bit. We met up at a bar and hashed it out. We used to practice at our first drummer's house in Cicero, Illinois, and that's how Guardrail started. I just and then I was like, all right, fuck it, let's book a show. So I booked a show for like 2 months from now, and then it's like, oh shit, we need songs. So we just kind of kept trying to pump out songs as quickly as we could, and that was pretty much what our first EP was.
The words.
Yeah.
That one? Okay.
Yeah, or word swords if you'd like to say it that way.
Oh, word swords.
Either way.
What is the technical term for? What is the real version of it?
It's really up to the listener. I mean, we
Really?
just sort of were like,
left
let's
it open-ended.
Yeah, we're like, let's make our first release just be as confusing as possible. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't even remember where that came from, but yeah, so that we just kind of started playing these more punk things, and I kind of took it. I didn't go into it thinking I'm just gonna be the front man at first, but then we had people sign on, and I was like, you know what? Let's look for a bass player too. I'm gonna just try holding the microphone, see how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I'd never done it. I'd always had that security blanket of having a guitar on. So yeah, I mean, that was a new experience for me for sure.
How was that show? Playing the first show as
it was
just the front man guy.
It was a lot of fun. We opened it for Patent Pending in this little basement venue in another suburb of Chicago. It's a basement of like a biker bar.
Oh, interesting.
And funny, so we were playing in the basement, and upstairs in the main bar, the guy Thomas Ian Nicholas, who played Kevin in the American Pie movies, was performing upstairs. So
really?
It was such a weird night. I got to meet him. He's short as hell. I was like, oh my God. But yeah, it was really cool. It was definitely new. I was like, okay, so when I'm not singing, what do I do with my hands? Like,
right.
There's a lot of that. So I'm like, okay, let's just kind of do some head bobs.
Got to come up with some dance moves.
So what would Chester Bennington do? I guess he would headbang. Okay, cool. So I was just like headbanging through most of our set, but most of our set is not like headbanging music.
Right.
But I mean, it went well. At least that's what my mom said. She was there, so.
That's good. And then the second release you guys did was Par at Best. Did you tour? Have you guys toured and stuff yet?
No, not really.
Okay.
It's like I said before, it's kind of been a revolving door of members. So I felt like we'd get a lineup together, we'd start rocking it. Our bass player Alyssa was actually in the band a few years ago, and then the band like kind of broke up in 2016. Mm-hmm. Kind of weren't. It almost was like kind of shoved to the side. It's kind of as another band. I was playing in another band at the time that was like a little more serious. But then like 2017, we tried to like revitalize things a bit. So we got a new drummer. We re-recruited our old guitarist Mike, and Ken's roommate at the time, Kevin, played bass for us. So we sort of had a different lineup there. And then that's when we released Par at Best. And then by the end of 2017, a bunch of them quit or whatnot. And then we kind of had to reinvent ourselves again. So
you just put all this time into the record, and then right after that, it kind of disbanded. Oh,
yeah, exactly. It's frustrating. It's hard to find, like, especially as we're getting older. It's like, we're not 16 anymore, so
right.
There's jobs and relationships and bills to pay and shit. So I mean, it's harder to find people, but then we ended up re-recruiting Alyssa on bass, and just because she happened to, we bumped into her at a party, and she just by coincidence happened to live like 2 blocks away from me at the time.
Oh, wow.
I was like, that's weird. So then, so I was actually just like, I was talking with my girlfriend, and she was just like, do you think Alyssa would want to join the band again? Because we were just like, what do we do? We ended up being down a bassist and drummer again.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know, like maybe. So I hit her up, and she's like, yeah, I'm down. Let's hang out. And then she came back with a vengeance. She's been crushing it ever since.
That's awesome. Yeah. And so she's back in the band, and then you guys put out this most recent record.
Yeah. We also we had recruited our drummer Doug, who's actually so everyone in the band besides me went to Northern Illinois University.
Oh, okay.
So everyone just kind of knew people through other people and stuff, and that's kind of how we met our drummer. And so I always just say that like I probably got like an honorary degree from there because I partied there so much just with Ken and everyone. But so yeah, so we recruited Doug, and we got we were like, let's record a couple singles at least, try to kick off this this era of the band, I should say.
Sure.
And so we were trying to figure out where to go, and I was like, I saw that Nick Diener from the Swellers he's got a studio up in Michigan, and I was like, you know, they were the reason this band kind of started in the first place. Why don't we hit him up? And so we did, and we booked studio time, and we recorded some singles, put those out. Those went, you know, pretty well, and so then we wrote this EP. We went back to Nick, and then here we are. So,
wow. So yeah, so he produced the new record.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And yeah, it was a lot of fun. That dude's insane, just like us, just a fucking goofball. So
everybody that recorded on the most recent record is in the band.
Yes, this is
fine for once. Yeah.
This is like the strongest we've been as a band. This is the longest we've kept this lineup of people. Like, you know, it's you know, we're in a good space finally. Like years into it, we finally like, you know, figured out the formula that works, and it's going pretty well.
So tell me about working with him and putting this record together. It must have been quite a bit different than the other two records you guys did.
Yeah. So the first 2 EPs we actually recorded on my laptop, just like DIY, just going for it. And
oh, really? So those were just self-recorded, both those first records?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Ken spent a lot of time, you know, looking up YouTube tutorials and shit of like, you know, how to do this, how to do that.
And I had a few friends who went to, you know, school for audio and engineering and whatnot, and asked them, you know, tips and all that stuff. Because, I mean, 5-6 years ago, we had absolutely no money to pay for anything. And as much as I mean, for my other band too, we're still recording like most of the guitars through me basically. And like, I love doing it, but it's so nice to just have someone else do everything for you, and all you have to worry about is playing. So
yeah, you get so critical of yourself, and you're kind of just like, I don't know, like when we were recording the other EPs, I know there were so many times where you're like, all right, so I know that sounded good, but I tweaked the guitar tone on this, and I think it sounds better. And then the week later, you're like, I tweaked it more, and like it's hard to be satisfied when it's your own thing, and you're
right. You can like overproduce it, or almost,
and you have no timeline. Like,
oh yeah, that's a good point.
You can always record. You can always record more.
Sure.
When it's your own, you know, on your computer.
Yeah.
So yeah, going with Nick for the 2 singles. When did we went almost 2 years ago now?
Yeah.
Like October 2018.
Yeah.
To record Jane and Screaming Bloody Mary, and that like little 2 days of working with a different, like an actual producer, someone else, which we immediately thought, man, we gotta do this again. But for Yikes, we decided to have a full day of pre-production before starting to record and just get into the mind of one of the catchiest songwriters.
Yeah.
And pick his brain and see what he thought of our songs. And then, I mean, that helped tremendously.
I was going to ask, was that pretty, I would imagine that'd be pretty beneficial to have him sit there and be like, okay, let's did he help you work through stuff in the songs?
Yeah, definitely. Cause the singles that we did before with him, those were all written. We just had 2 days in his studio to just crank those out. So we didn't have time to really like sit with him and work on them. But this time around, we were like, okay, we went in there with not everything was 100% written. Like musically, it was pretty much there. Lyrically, it was probably 50%, 60%. And some of the songs, we just the single actually Till We're Dead, we just like restructured entirely. From the original idea. The original idea, the part that ended up being the chorus was the verse, and the verse was the chorus. So Nick was like, I think what you think is the verse is the catchier part of the song, and that needs to be the chorus. So he just chopped up our demo and moved things around and tried it that way. And we're like, okay, cool. And that was a song too that I didn't really have much of the lyrics written for yet. So it was easy to kind of like start from scratch so it was nice to hear pointers from him, like, take in the title track Yikes, the first chorus is like cut in half basically, and that was his idea. He's like, it'll build better, just things like that. And I'm like, cool, I love every single Swellers song, so
yeah, it's a rad record. I was listening to it earlier. I listened to the EP when I was driving around earlier today. I dig it. It definitely has like that, I don't know, like strung out, kind of like the double kick, like feel to it, like those early Warped Tour bands. I feel like that sound, but like a modern twist to it. I dig it a lot, man. It's awesome.
Thanks,
Thank
man.
you.
Yeah. We grew up listening to all that kind of stuff. Like, I know Ken's happy that you compared us to Strung Out because he fucking loves Strung Out.
Yeah, it has those elements to it, but then there's like changes that kind of give me like, I don't know, like different. A similar vein but different artists. I don't know. It's really rad though. I think it's not just like straight up like, all right, this is gonna sound like a Strung Out song. It's like there's elements in the song. You know what I mean? Like, because there could be another band that could just not steals, but sound similar or whatever. But
right.
I feel like you guys have bits of that, but it's definitely a lot more influences than just the one.
All four of us definitely. We all listen to the punk music, but it's all four of us like hone in on specific areas of punk. Like like what you said earlier, like I love Strung Out, like Sum 41.
Oh, I definitely
Rise Against, like the
in there.
more guitar riff heavy punk bands. And then Kevin definitely like Blink-182, Bouncing Souls. And then Doug's more of like pop and what are they? Fiddler and like bands like that.
Sure.
And then Alyssa's probably got I think the most far out like she whenever she shows songs to us, we're always like, whoa, we've never heard of this before.
Yeah.
She's got the very cool, unique taste in punk. And like I think a song like really starts off with almost all of those influences in there because it's just it's all over the place. Like it's Blink-182 and like that pre-chorus little riff is like straight up Sum 41 and
okay, that's the first song on the record. I was gonna say that I definitely
and then like
that right away.
And then the chorus, at the time we were listening, I don't know why we were listening to this, but we were trying to think of the vocal melody for the chorus on Really. And for some reason in my head, I kept hearing this like one hit wonder from the 90s or like early 2000s, the Republica, Ready to Go. I mean,
I don't know. I'd have to hear this.
If you pull it up, you'll be like, oh yeah, this was in every movie in 99. But it's like Republica, Ready to Go is the song. And
now I'm going to look it up while you're talking.
Yeah.
Like the chord progression's not. I don't know. The vibe of the chorus was just like, oh yeah, we got to have some oohs and ahs, like backing vocals going on. So it's just like crazy weird influences all over in that song.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I played the first 3 notes of it, and I know exactly what song that is.
Yeah, and we also too had just like a month before that saw the B-52s play at Riot Fest, and
Oh,
that's
right.
that I think is where
Yeah.
the other influence for the oohs and ahs and the chords there came
Yeah.
from. It's very B-52s in there.
Right
Yeah.
on.
But,
Well, how did you
but
guys feel about putting this record out? I mean, amidst a pandemic, you know?
damn. So at first we were gonna just kind of put it out ourselves in like April, and
Uh-huh.
because it's pretty much done. Around when was it done? Like beginning of March, something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah. And so we had an Indiegogo campaign for to raise money for the record, and
Right.
so our thing was like, once we had our first like mix and master like ready to go, like Republica. Then we send an email blast to everyone who contributed, like, you guys get to listen to it first, and so we played a show on March 12th, just a little show at a bar out here in Chicago. We played with this band called Church Girls from somewhere in Pennsylvania, I think Philadelphia, and the very next day everything was like shutting down, and
Oh, wow.
so we're like, okay, what do we do now? So we kind of just like we sent the EP to our contributors for our Indiegogo, and then we were just like, all right, so we're trying to figure this out. We'll kind of see how things go, because everything was so up in the air. I mean, it's still up in the air, but it was, we didn't think it was going to be this long,
Mm-hmm.
We're like, yeah, let's see. One of the guys that contributed to the Indiegogo happens to work for Open Years Records, so he hit me up and was like, would you mind if I pass this along to the label that I work for? And I was like, of course, go for it.
Yeah.
So he did, and then we got in touch with them, and they're kind of just like, yeah, we try not to sign a band until we've actually seen them, and they've only signed bands from Virginia, where they're from. They're like, yeah, but we really like your record though, and we just want to, we'll talk. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, because we did have a show. We were supposed to play with Bowling for Soup in April, so our kind of plan at the time was like, okay, well, if things start opening back up again,
Mm-hmm.
the guy was like, I'll fly out and see you, and that's cool. So could have flown out to see us, play with Bowling for Soup, have a great show, and that probably would have been it. But that did not happen. So
Right.
yeah, we just kind of stayed in touch, and we just kept talking, and we just sort of pushed off this release because we didn't have anything set in stone, and then we just made it work out.
Mm-hmm.
And then we we got the vinyls printed, we got all that stuff, and then
Yeah, the
here we are.
vinyls look dope. The
Yeah.
color splashes on them, I think it looks
Yeah.
rad.
I'm very happy with how those turned out. But
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, it sucks because normally we'd be like, all right, we've just put out this record, let's go play shows, let's get out there, let's
Right.
hit out the surrounding states and whatnot. And it is kind of funny that I want to say February or maybe late January, I just decided just as a joke, I was going to label all of the shows that we played this year as our world tour, even if they were just in Chicago. And I made a little flyer, and I had like the next 3 shows on it that like one was in Wisconsin and 2 were in Chicago. And I put a little asterisk next to world tour, and it just says like all shows located on the world. And that was just like going to be
tour
our
canceled due to coronavirus.
I know, that was going to be our shtick for the year. And it's like, well, shit, we made it as far as Madison, Wisconsin, and that was that was our world tour.
Right.
But
Yeah.
but I mean, it has been cool though that we were able to link up with Open Your Ears because it gave us a lot more to look forward to, and it made it really good. It kept the wind in our sails.
Mm-hmm.
And it kept us excited for this because I feel like if we just put it out ourselves in April, by now we'd be like, okay, now what? You know?
Right.
So I'm really glad it worked out. They've been super cool to work with, and
Nice.
we've been doing a lot of cool things like we're doing right now, like these cool podcasts and interviews and stuff that like we never would have been doing ourselves, you know. So
Yeah, I saw you
it's
guys did like a Instagram takeover.
yeah, we did that with it was on this past Sunday, and that was cool. That was the first time we actually like really full on jam together since March. Like
Wow.
it was nuts. I mean, even though the songs were a little stripped down, just because if we played them full blast, the sound would have been horrible on Instagram.
Right.
So
Yeah.
let's strip them down. We've done that before, so you know, let's work it out. We had one rehearsal, worked out these songs. We're like, cool, let's do it. And you know, since March, the only jam session we had was in last month. It was my birthday, so the bands and our significant others all just went camping together. So like, let's do something at least, you know.
Right.
My birthday finally on a weekend for the first time in like 5-6 years, and I can't do shit.
Right.
So we did that. So we brought a couple guitars and, you know, had a little jam session by the campfire, but that was it until now. So
Yeah.
it's been weird. I was like, man,
Was it weird playing the Instagram live thing?
yeah, because we've never really done anything like that before.
Yeah.
So
And then you're not getting any reaction from anyone aside, like you're waiting for the clap.
I know. We're like done, and like our buddy our buddy Phil was like our cameraman for the day, because we're like, rather than just like setting this somewhere and trying to all squeeze into frame, like let's just have someone hold it and he can kind of go back and forth.
Cruise around, yeah.
So Phil was like reading us the comments, and he was after our songs, he was going like, "Woo!" Like, all right, funny. Cool. We had a little bit of a crowd reaction, even though it's just Phil. But
it's funny. I was talking to some people that were saying like, you know, there's like a 15-second delay or something on Zoom. So when you'd or on the Instagram live, so you'd finish the song, and then like nothing happens for like 15 seconds, just people just looking at you, and then it's like, oh.
Oh my god, I can't imagine doing like a Zoom thing like that.
Yeah,
like, I follow so many like stand-up comedians and stuff on like their podcasts and their Instagrams, and some of them are doing these shows via Zoom, and they're just like, they're not fun. Like,
yeah, well, I can't imagine being a comedian. It's like, if you have a 15-second delay, it's like, did my joke land, or am I just?
I know, right?
Feel like an idiot. Like,
yeah, hold for applause. Keep holding. Keep holding.
Right. Oh, man. Well, dude, thank you guys so much for talking with me today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, this is a blast.
Thank
man.
you.
Yeah, I do have one more question. I want to know if you guys have any advice for aspiring artists.
Man, just keep at it. Like we're in our 30s already, and we're still keeping at it, even though we haven't made it big yet. But like, you know, we love doing it, and that's, if you really love doing it, just keep at it. And
yeah, on top of that, I think surround yourself with people you want to be making music with constantly. People who are just as dedicated and have as much drive and want it as much as you. Because, I mean, we've had so many lineup changes and been in so many bands up until now where, yeah, if people aren't all on the same page and you're not like, man, if you don't see it as hanging out with your friends, I think it makes it a lot harder to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like at some point, you go.
I was just going to say, when we were recording the record, like it really helped that we're all actually like just good friends outside of playing music, because hanging out with you guys for a week up in middle of fucking nowhere, Michigan was such a fucking blast. Like we went through several cases of White Claw and watched the entire series of Big Mouth and just had a blast. And then we were writing music, and it was a lot of fun. And I didn't come home from that trip going like, thank God I'm home. Like,
yeah, it was,
you know,
it went by so quickly, and I didn't want it to end. And that's what I would say. Try and surround yourself with people that you could hang out with in a Airbnb in the middle of nowhere
Yeah.
for a few weeks.
Yeah.
Bringing it backward.